Hi, welcome to another Lemon Amiga gameplay review. This time we'll be taking a look at the 1991 game Turrican II, released by Factor 5 and programmed by Manfred Trenz, Holger Schmidt, Julian Egbright, and music of course by the wonderful Chris Hulsbeck. So let's plunge straight into level 1 and check this game out. This will be a long play, so I'll be playing this game to the end. So, Turrican II is a side-scrolling platform game in a similar vein to the Metroid series, or some people may remember Psycho Nick's Oscar from the arcade. We play as an android wearing a Turrican suit, and holding down fire button will instigate the surround laser, which in this case is highlighted a hidden weapons cache, and the weapons can be upgraded in this game. This is the laser upgrade to 3rd laser power. And the more laser tokens you collect, the more those will be powered up. Let's collect another one to put it to level 4. And as you can see, the surface of the alien planet is full of enemies. All the player needs to do is to reach the exit to qualify for the next level. And picking up these tokens here certainly help that process. Again, holding down the fire button instigates the surround laser, which instigates full 360 degree firepower, which is certainly handy for these bees. And by exploring the level, the player can also find lots of other hidden items as well, including lots of hidden lives and weapons caches. And contact with any of the enemies will significantly decrease the player's health, as you can see. So sometimes it's good to save that health and discover those hidden weapons caches to pick up some extra. So on top of this mound here, if I fire into this section, I can collect the yellow P there to increase my energy to the top, and I have also collected the shield as well. So let's speed back to the point where I left off. If you climb this section and run across, avoiding all the enemies, for your time and trouble, the game will reward you an extra life, which is always handy. There are 56 lives scattered throughout the game, and added to the 4 you have at the beginning, that means a possible total of 60, which should be enough for even the average player to be able to complete this game. During this play guide, I'll be showing you where some of those lives are, and also where some of those hidden weapons caches are. And once the player memorises all those, they really shouldn't find this game too difficult. So on this first level, if we carry on walking to the right, we'll find a windy section, and at this point you might think that this is a dead end. The player can't seem to progress further than this section, but if we use this shadow here and climb up onto these platforms, we'll find several platforms there, which takes us onto another section, which reveals yet again an extra life. So it's always worth exploring those hidden corners on every level to get those extra lives. And falling down from here, you'll notice a flashing exit, which indicates the next section of the map. And just in case the player is running out of energy at this point, they will always find a hidden weapons cache. So let's just restock on all our weapons, our health, and get that shield as well for a temporary 5-second shield, which makes us invulnerable to anything. I've picked up the multiple weapon, which isn't very powerful, but by pulling down and pressing space, we can duck into our gyroscope weapon, which again leaves us invulnerable to any enemies. So it's always worth ducking into that gyroscope in an emergency, or for that matter holding down fire to trigger the surround laser like this. And that should mean by inching through the level and triggering those enemies to appear, it should be possible to run and gun your way through most of these levels. And as I say, ever so often the game will reward you by energy and extra lives, so as long as the player memorises where all those are, progressing shouldn't be that hard. So there are a few diamonds as well if the player carries on to the right on this section, but I'm going to go above ground and tackle the very first of our bosses, which appears in the middle of this section. So if the player finds a sweet spot on the floor, the player can use the surround laser to hit the robot in the face, which depletes him very quickly. In the meantime, they can use the surround to get rid of the falling debris from the roof, and that's how you get rid of that monster with 0 energy loss. And if you duck down again to the gyroscope, you'll find energy there, and dropping a few bombs means we can get through that section once again without losing any lives or energy. So let's carry on. The player can now exit the level by continuing to the right, but I'm going to show you another hidden section by climbing this section and moving to the left, and that will hopefully reveal some more energy, rebound laser which can rebound off everything, and further along this section we will find hidden gems which are totaled at the end of the game to give you a super big bonus. And also continuing along this section we'll find leaps of faith which should take us to yet more lives. So let's see if we can track those down, get those bonuses. That's an auto-destruct icon, a smart bomb, so always worth picking those up. And here we are again. So this section has a number of leaps of faith. The player just has to jump off there and hope that a platform will materialise underneath their feet. And so far so good, another leap of faith. And it is possible to fall down between those gaps if the player isn't very careful, but just taking it easy on this section, taking the time to get rid of these pesky aliens reaps its own rewards. And ignoring that energy there, seems already are full, and there's a set of bees here. Bees will carry on respawning from that beehive for about 10 seconds, so you can remove the bees for extra bonus, or you can just target the beehive there and get rid of those. You might notice on this playthrough I'm not targeting every single enemy. It is possible to gain a super massive score if you clear every enemy from every section, but this is more like a speed run just to show you the elements of the game. And not very far getting rid of that dragon, so let's use a few of those power lines on that thing, and I've missed the life. So it's so easy to do on that section, requires almost a pixel perfect jump. So let's skip through the first one and let's try that again. Right on the edge there, and you get 2 lives to bring us up to 8. So now we can fall down that level, kill or otherwise avoid these, and let's get back almost to the start and jump down the waterfall again to continue the level. These levels in Turrican II are larger than Turrican 1. There are only 2 levels per world, while on Turrican 1 there were generally 3 levels per section, and these levels really are large. The player will have to play through these levels quite a number of times, and as you can see this is only level 1, and it does make progress much easier once you've destroyed all the aliens. As you can see, the player can clear the level and speed through the level pretty quickly once they run and gun their way through the easy enemies. So now I'm moving to the right, and there's a dragon here which marks the end section of level 1. Getting through this and jumping off that section will reveal a cluster of diamonds, which again gives us a small bonus of points at this section, but later on in the game, at the end, they will reward us a huge bonus. And let's get those items. The lightning The black lightning icon is to extend the surround laser, and you'll definitely need that on every level, so it's always worth picking those lightning icons up. And because we backtracked to get those lives, we are now time out. And if we hadn't backtracked to get those lives, it is completely possible to complete this level with just the lives that you start with, and without running out of time. And this marks the very end section of the game, so let's mosey on up there and get rid of a few things, kill the dragon and get the energy. So one good thing about this game, usually if the player manages to survive a number of enemies, the game will give you enough energy or enough lives to progress, and this makes the game quite easy as long as you know where those things are. And for example, on this section there is an extra life to be gained by defeating that dragon and falling down the gap. These dragons aren't always easy, but falling into the spiky ball there, the gyroscope, always makes that possible. And now we're back up to 8 lives. And that should be the number we finish this level with, unless something terrible happens. You never know in this game, one enemy can wipe all your energy out and kill you just like that. So, just like that. And that was the exit. So let's complete that level. Level 2 gives us a slight change in scenery and a number of different elements to avoid, like these pits of death, and the variety in these levels really has to be marvelled. The graphics in particular are particularly well done and well drawn, and they weren't really improved in the follow-up Turrican III, so perhaps Turrican II is the best graphically out of the three. And I have to say the playability in this game is spot on. The learning curve is absolutely perfect, and the number of weapons caches and lives always ensures progress if the player should be dedicated enough. And so we advance on to the second section, which I will call the ball bearing section. If you fire, you should be able to get rid of those ball bearings in the same manner as the bees. You can fire at ball bearings to get extra points, or if you remove the main ball, the hub, the trigger, you will be able to stop those ball bearings from endlessly falling out of the sky. So let's just get rid of those trigger points, and one manages to get me down there, and by careful firing on this section you can get back up to the 8 lives again. Always worth it. So let's avoid those blobs. They really do take quite some firepower to remove, and the surround laser will be very helpful there. And on this section, those green kind of plant icons that grow from the floor, the player will be able to climb those by shooting gaps in them and climbing those to reach higher levels. But the Turrican suit does a tremendous job of propelling the user to a great height. Oop, just avoid that one there. So jumping to high platforms isn't really a problem in this game. The only thing to watch out for is dying too many times and having the weapons reduced to 0 again, which isn't very helpful. This is the second laser, and now that I've died, I'm now on the first laser again, which is more like a pop gun. As you will see when I try and fire this thing, it really is weedy. So let's use those green plant vines again to climb over this level. So if we blast through the ball bearings and pull to the right, we'll find this section, which will give us a number of crystals and an extra life. And if we blast through the ball bearings and pull to the left, we will also find an extra life. Surprisingly, if we pick the one up to the right first, we won't find the life to the left, and so on. So let's just climb up that left hand section and show you exactly what I mean, because there are extra lives up there. And jump on top of this mound and hop over the plant life to get there. So yeah, if the player pulls to the left from the drop down, they will find 3 lives in this section, but even if they don't, they will find 2 by removing this enemy. Again, if you can use the surround layers, you will find the enemy pretty easy, and I have 3 power lines available should I need to use those. So that's the enemy disposed of. Pick up the lives, that brings us up to 10. Now this section, there would have been a life if I hadn't gone and picked the other one up, but that's one of the limitations of the game. So let's speed through this, gyroscope again, and as I say, I'm avoiding most of these enemies. This is a speed run through the game. The player can rack up some score, particularly on these ball bearings that fall down. They will stop firing after about 10 seconds or so, and particularly if you remove the main hub to destroy those and collect those diamonds. On this section there is a pit of death. If you fall down the next section, you will be unable to get out and you will die. So don't fall down this pit, and do a round robin to carry on and exit this section. This is still only halfway through the second level, by the way. That gives you some idea of the size of these things. Pull to the left because there's always fish, and get the energy top up if possible. No, there aren't any. The bonuses in those, avoid that pit of death, the bonuses are all random, so you never know whether you're going to find extra lives or extra shields or whatever. And there should be an extra health in this section if you can only reach it, which I can't. But the shield remaining means I can run and gun and get stuck into those aliens. It really is important to get stuck in, to dive your way through, keep running, keep firing and keep running, and hopefully, even with that amount of energy, hopefully you'll survive. And with 10 lives, that isn't really hard. So to kill this alien, the easiest way is to fire directly into its eye using the surround laser at that point. And I've died before I've managed to trigger that. If you die and lose your weapons like I have, then you can again fire into its eye, but you'll lose length on that surround laser, which means you can't make it. So as I say, dying on this game makes life harder because you'll lose firepower, lose surround laser, and lose the other little bits and pieces you need to kill those guys. So this game took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to complete, and we won't sit here for that amount of time. Let's speed the game up so that we can get through all the rest of the sections from now on. This is level 3, and it is the second world. This is the spider world. As you can see, spiders will jump and grab hold of the player, and they can be really pesky critters, those things, and they can really sap your lives down as well, so always watch those spiders. If you can continue to climb those platforms there, you'll be rewarded with lives. So let's see if we can get there, get into that bowl there, navigate that section, and that gives us another hidden part of the game. And the first thing we'll find is a number of crystals, and then an extra life. And if we continue along this honeycomb section, we'll find another extra life. So blast away those spiders, kill the honeycombs, and get those bonuses. You can't retreat through there, but at this section, if you are running out of energy, you can gyroscope down into the bottom layer, get the bonuses, get the health back up to the top again, and then run and gun your way back out of there, making sure that you can gyroscope through that gap. And then after that, the aliens come thick and fast, so the player really has to avoid everything and and plunge into the water as fast as possible. If you have auto fire, then the rebound weapon will make this water section a bit easier, or the laser gun. The multiple there isn't really that effective, but as long as the player manages to hammer the fire button, even this section is quite easy. There are large fish which, like this one, which take a few goals to kill, but eventually we will drop down there and pick up these 2 extra lives, and puts us on to 12, and the fish kill us again. So it is possible to memorise this section, but this section of the underwater level is the hardest, as you can probably see. And let's just get up and get that extra life there, and exit that level as quickly as possible, and get that. No power-ups in that section, so yeah, exit that level as quickly as possible. Back to the spiders. So the levels in Turrican II are quite linear, although there are branching routes and different ways to get to certain points. The giveaway fact is the fact that you've killed all the aliens or the animals on the level, and a clear section gives away that that's the way you've been, and an onslaught of enemies gives away the fact that that's the way to go. So climbing this section, getting rid of that spiky alien, gives us another variety, and this is another mid-level boss, and this level boss can be difficult to kill. As you can see, I'm timing the laser blasts there coming from this thing, and you can time your jumps to avoid the bulk of its firepower, although trying to memorise its attack pattern isn't particularly easy, because this thing keeps bobbing up and down and makes a real nuisance of trying to complete this level. If you get the surround laser directly into its eye, you can remove this alien relatively quickly, but with this firepower and this endlessly avoiding its laser, I'm making a meal of this, definitely making a dog's dinner of it, but hopefully that's all you need to do to get rid of it. All you need to do is take your time and avoid the laser blasts. And exit the level. And here we go, level 4 starts off very easy. All I have to do is duck down on that platform, but due to the tremendous variety on these levels, we will find different sets of aliens. This level 4 I will call the cogs level, because that's what you tend to find on this thing, and using the surround laser is probably your best bet to get rid of most of those. Otherwise, use as many power lines as possible to clear your way, and those cogs really don't make life very easy on this level. They're probably the hardest to get rid of, and sometimes it's best just to way in there and run and gun. So I'm going to show you another hidden section of the game. If you manage to get through this part, there are gem mazes to the top here. If you can navigate your way through these missile launchers, that is, and more cogs to navigate and things that will kill you to death. But if you are patient or lucky, you'll be able to collect up all those diamonds and collect the extra life there. So before we go, if we walk off the end of this section and drop down there, we can pick up those 2 lives. There is probably a way to get both of those lives, but I find that dropping down that hole, you'll lose one with the death and you pick up the extra one, which makes it worth it. And navigate your way through the laser field here before we return to the menacing cogs once again. Sometimes it's best to take your time removing these enemies on these levels, just to make sure that your energy and lives are preserved, and sometimes it's best to gun your way through there. But remember, there are precious few seconds remaining, and the time limits on these levels can get tight as well, so it's always worth progressing with motivation, even if it means dying a couple of times like this. This is a hard section. These parachuting robots will get in your way, and if you collide with those, you'll find yourself all the way back down to the bottom again. This can be a really tricky section, quite infuriating as well. The player has to jump and time those jumps with the wind. So when the wind blows, the player can jump and avoid the enemies as far as possible. So again, I'm making a meal of this. Let's see if I can at least jump out of this pit of death and conserve that last part of the energy there, and get rid of those firing lasers. And on this section we will choose our weapon. Probably the laser gun is probably the best one to collect there, and that prepares us for another mid-level boss. On this section, if we stand fairly central and wipe out the guns above and below the beast there, once all the guns are removed, we can then hop down back to the central position and wipe out the central hub, making sure we don't drop down there with the alien or we will die. You have to make sure that the alien is dead before you drop down there, and we'll get the extra life there on that section just to make that death just a little bit more worth it, which puts us up to 9. And then we loop the loop all the way around again, drop off that pit, and we will be rewarded with a spaceship for the next section. In the middle section of Turrican II, the programmers have thoughtfully coded a flying shoot-'em-up sequence, and the level mechanics are taken from the game Catechis, which the Factory 5 team were programming concurrently to this. And as you can see, hammering the fire button there is just enough to remove those enemies. This isn't with auto fire, this is just normal fire. I've picked up the laser there, which gives you a nice wide angle of firepower to shoot those things, and it's always worth picking up the shield as well. And this is the rebound, which probably is the best weapon to use on this flying section, and you can more or less kill everything there with that rebound laser. And once again, the levels will generally give the player lives and shields and power-ups just to keep them going, and picking up the shield is always worth it. Again, normal fire on this level, the player can just about manage it, but if they switch on auto fire like this, the player will find the levels an absolute breeze and actually a joy to get through. This is probably the only set of levels where the player can use auto fire, seeing as if the player uses auto fire in the main levels, they will cut off access to their surround laser, and seeing as it's crucial to have that, there is no point having auto fire during normal player. And I'm reminded of the game Scramble, or Super Scramble perhaps, on the Commodore 64 for this section, and of course Catechis and other blasters such as R-Type maybe, but I find this level much more fun than R-Type, easier, and the player can manoeuvre the craft much more quickly, and it's much more rewarding to me than R-Type as well. Even the scrolling is faster and smoother with many layers of parallax there. So a graphical treat for most users, even though the user's eyes will be concentrating on this endless succession of alien attacks. Very, very nice graphics there. So this is the end of the level boss, and if you have auto fire, it really is easy, but otherwise it's possible to zoom right into its eye and generally avoid the other eyes as they fly around in circles around the player, and eventually you'll be able to shoot your way through there. So let's speed our way through the remaining flying sections of this game so that we can basically see more of the later levels. And probably for me, this flying section is my favourite section of the whole game, particularly this one, this middle level flying section here. And the player doesn't really get to control the level, and the level will auto scroll, and this makes flying this shoot 'em up level very interesting indeed. And the player has to duck into certain areas and use their power lines at the most appropriate moments to get through sometimes tricky obstacles, like these guys. Always very tricky getting past these because they appear from behind, so power lines to the ready. So the scrolling on this level really is unique. I haven't seen a game or a level in fact like this before or since, and the fact that you can use the rebound to hit targets all over the screen is certainly a novel feature, and again something which is unique to this game. There are many unique traits to this game, including the variety and type of end of level bosses. So let's get to the end of level boss and let's have a look at that. So the trick here is to shoot the guns which aren't currently firing, and the guns will alternate between the middle section and the wings. So all the player has to do is get in there while the gun isn't firing, knock out the gun, and when all the guns are removed they can then knock out the wings and then the middle section. It should be as easy as that. But that boss will remove our guns, so over the next level we will be unable to fire, and we will have to navigate our way through the level at high speed. There are at least 4 lives on this level to pick up, and the player will have to be very quick indeed if they want to pick those up and memorise where they are on the level. Sometimes it helps to stay to the far left there and to use the level almost like a driving game, just weaving up and down as fast as possible, but not a very easy section at all, though very fun. And then avoid the final level boss when it opens the first time. When it opens the second time you can just wade in there, and once the core of the ship is removed you can then go ahead and remove the top and the bottom section at your leisure, and then it's on to the next level. So this is the 4th world in Turrican II, 4 out of the 6, and this world I will call the purple world because I have no idea what to call it. And this level in particular is massive. It represents the biggest level of the entire game. So let's get that extra life and the weapons there to give us a fighting chance, and have a quick look at the map. Looking at this map we can see the level is huge, and we are just about at the top of that map there, where you can see the 4 columns, and just below me there is the extra life. So let's pick up that crystal and let's get the extra life. And if we are short of weapons we can always take that shortcut and get to those weapons caches as well on the other side of that hidden section. Sometimes you'll find hidden tunnels on certain sections of the game which invariably lead to extra crystals and weapons caches, and there are at least 4 lives to pick up on this level, and hopefully by looking at this little map you can see where they are and how to get there. Sometimes there is a quick way as well to complete this level, and if the player isn't too bothered about score they can simply duck out the top way and exit the level within about 30 seconds. Otherwise this level will take probably 15-20 minutes to play through, and the sheer number of laser cannons and rocket launchers and that kind of thing will certainly make the level tricky. So that's one of those lives picked up now. You can see them heading towards the bottom of the level, and let's just get that weapons cache in there as well to get as many items as possible. Either get the shield or duck under there to avoid the spikes, and also duck in this section as well for some more, well, a selection of 4 bonus pickups there, all of which will give you extra score, even if you don't need that firepower. So at the moment I'm on 14 power lines, and we will certainly need those later on. So let's duck out of there and start climbing this level again. I'm now climbing the central section of that map there, heading towards those 2 weapons caches. So at first glance, this World 4 really is massive, and it will take the player a long time to memorise the level and to figure out where they're going. But having done so, it's surprising coming back to this level even many years later, the player will still be able to remember hints and tricks and things like that they used to do on this level. So let's collect those extra few crystals in that other section. You can see on the map the green lines there denote the hidden sections that you can run through to get to extra power-ups. And now that I have 16 power lines, I've probably just enough to defeat the mid-level boss. So let's duck through those hidden sections and get there. This is the dragon, and I will use all those power lines to get rid of that thing. He will blow you onto the sparks if you're not too careful, so always best to use up your power lines on that section. If you pull back, press space and press fire, the player will do a smart bomb blast which clears the whole screen. But if you try and do that on the dragon section, you might find yourself getting stuck inside the scenery, so that's not very helpful. And here we go, this is the end of the level. So this is level 4.1, which I will name the Machine Zone in lieu of any other great titles for this level. The entire level is one huge machine, so the player will have to avoid presses, and those mines there that the aliens drop can be a bit of a headache. It's always worth getting rid of those. And if I go towards this top section here, I will find lots of hidden gems. There really is no point going towards this top section if the player is concentrating on score and lives, but collecting those hidden gems there might give us a little extra score if we manage to complete the game. So let's just whiz on through those and use the power spike as well to get those gems at the bottom, and then leave and onto the rest of the level. You'll find cogs on this level as well, which are difficult to remove. Sometimes the surround laser is probably the best gun to use on this section, and there are at least 4 extra lives to pick up as well, which we'll see later on, and it's always worth picking those up. I'm now up to 14 lives, so the player might be able to guess at this point that even though they will lose a number of lives, the sheer number of pickups means that they shouldn't be short of lives, even at this stage in the game. So let's climb on up there, die, and then reveal an extra hidden section of the game where we can find a couple of extra lives. Just up here and drop down through that section and back up again, which puts me back up to 15. That's more like it. This level is rather tricky, and sometimes the player should progress slowly, luring enemies onto the screen to dispose of those as quickly as possible. As I say, those ground-based mines that the enemies drop are a bit of a pain, and those cogs as well. Get that extra life, which maintains the 15. The presses can be easily avoided. So the music in this game is another huge selling point. The Chris Hulsbeck music has been very well done. In fact, the Turrican II music is probably some of the most remixed tunes in the entire Amiga back catalogue. There are at least 25 or 30 remixes of the Turrican theme, some of which actually done by Chris himself, and he also did a project where he remapped the instruments for an orchestra and did a Turrican II orchestral piece as well at a show in Europe, I think last year, and I really do love the music in Turrican II. So let's just get through those big feet and exit the level. By far the most interesting and perhaps the most deadly level in the entire game has to be this one, the aliens level. Any fan of H.R. Geiger will recognise the alien landscape, and any James Cameron, Ridley Scott fans will remember the movies starring Sigourney Weaver. And the aliens levels are creepy, they are large, and they are very dangerous indeed. One slight touch from any of these hazards, including some of the platforms themselves, will wipe out the player, and even the tongues of the aliens there must be avoided unless the player wants to be fed to one of these things as a quick lunge. So get rid of those horseshoes there, which blast down from some of the aliens. And these red domes as well can really fill the screen with firepower, so it's important to get rid of those. They are infinitely respawning, so the player will have to destroy the dome if they want to stop the firepower, unless they want to leech a high score. So this level also takes quite some memorising, and as I said, the traps on this level are particularly deadly, so the player will have to watch out, and they will die quite regularly as well. The graphics are reasonably well drawn on this level, but if anything, it's the music which provides the level with all the tension the player can handle, and even this speeded up music is palpable enough with the heartbeat to incite fear into the hearts of many. The huge range of enemies on these levels is a very good bonus, particularly the eyes on legs and that kind of thing, which make play really difficult. Let's get that extra life there. And these sections here with the red domes probably mark the halfway stage of the entire level. And this section is interesting as well. The face huggers from the Aliens movies are there with the egg cases. So you have to destroy the egg cases and the face huggers, which will jump out at you and cling onto your face. If you do get one of those aliens on your face, you will have to waggle the joystick furiously left and right to loosen those suckers, and then blast those things when they land on the floor, get an extra life. So the face hugging aspect is definitely well done in this game, and those things can be really scary when they jump up at the player. So continuing through the red domes now, and as I say, those eyeballs with the fingers, they are really difficult to avoid sometimes. Look at that, and again, that wipes me down to 13 lives. Oh dear. And again, another one. They really do come thick and fast, so if you've got any power lines, use them. And not many extra lives remaining now. So after this section we find yet another leap of faith, which isn't usually appreciated in the Turrican game. So let's see if we can be brave and leap across that gap. And I've survived it just about. That shield will come in handy if I can pick it up. And I'm down to one single weedy firepower because I've died so many times. I'm going to have to find a weapons cache if I want to progress this level. And there is one up there, but I can't get it because I'm so low on energy. I know I'll die if I attempt it. Get the life, and there's another life up here as well. So it's always worth exploring those things. So even though the aliens level isn't my favourite, it's certainly the most atmospheric, and it's one of the largest as well. So you will need to explore this to get the most out of the game. Playability wise, I find even this level very rewarding, and the level of playability, as I said before, isn't very steep, so the player should be able to progress to these levels should they be determined to do so, and the playability curve is just perfect in my view. The player jumps and shoots with dexterity, and the player is never left wondering why they died on certain sections. The game always gives the player a certain amount of manoeuvrability, and just memorising certain parts of the levels should get you through those, no problem. The way the player has to negotiate different platforms like these alien tongues adds a unique variety to the game, and also the flying sections and the different varieties of the maps and the different varieties of the aliens all provide extra playing impetus in this game, and to me it does rank higher than Turrican 1. Get those 2 extra lives there, definitely remember to get those. And so while Turrican 1 may have been even easier to play, I think the depth of Turrican 2 and the playability, and not forgetting the music, sets it apart from its predecessor, and certainly better than Turrican 3. Look at that, died again, eyes on spikes, never be able to avoid those. So yeah, I prefer this over Turrican 3, not least because you get the surround laser on this game, while in Turrican 3 you just get the rope. On to the final level now of this playthrough guide, and it's another alien level, and the player is advised to collect all those L's to get the power lines. In fact, as many power lines as possible will be a big help. Those platforms don't hang around very long, and they will auto-destruct after a certain number of seconds, so the player will have to time those jumps so that they land on the next highest platform before the previous one destructs. So get the extra lives there by sneaking into that gap, and sometimes auto-fire can help to move some of these enemies, but they aren't particularly hard, so this probably is the easiest level on the entire game. And as long as most of the enemies are wiped out, most of the ground guns, this level isn't hard at all, and once the player masters the jumping of the destructing platforms, that is. So, Turrican 2, I really like this game and I can't recommend it enough. I'll give this a 9.5 out of 10. The downside is perhaps the levels could have been a little bit more complex, maybe not so many energy, maybe not so many lives to make this game an absolute pushover, which it is, but I still love the game. I think it's a great introduction to any Amiga. So the last level then, the last level boss, all you have to do is fire your surround laser into the guy's face and then avoid him. Jump onto the side, fire all the laser lines that you've managed to get and avoid him. Duck down, press fire, press space and do the on-screen blitz and then avoid him. Shoot him in the face, get the power line, and that should be it. That's how to kill the last boss with 1 life. And after all that, your score will rack up from epoxy 1 million all the way up to 2.3, and the more lives you gain, the better. So thank you for viewing my play guide to Turrican 2. Cheers.